Okay, I'm with Paralegal Kelly Hawks. Kelly has a ton of experience in Landlord and Tenant Board matters specifically. And so my question for Kelly today is how the eviction process works in Ontario on a kind of step-by-step.
Great question, because a lot of people don't know what to do after they get the order from the board. So they've been through the process where they've obtained an order, or let's say the tenant agrees to leave and they've signed some kind of an agreement to end the tenancy and it's been formalized by an order from the board. They don't know what to do next. And it's so important for everybody to know that in order to get vacant possession, there's an important step that you take by completing documents. They're called eviction request forms. You have to file them with the small claims court enforcement office, so in your area. So like in Hamilton, it's the downtown one. If it's Toronto, it could be Toronto East or West, or it's the small claims court for that area. And you have to pay a fee. It's usually somewhere between $300 and $350. And then the sheriff will contact you when they've scheduled an eviction date. And you have to be there, and you have to have either someone there to be able to change the locks, or you have to change the locks yourself while the sheriff is there. And and then the sheriff will give you something called a notice of vacant possession. It's just a piece of paper. It says, I was here, I emptied the property basically, and it's signed by both the owner and the sheriff. If you arrive at the appointment and the tenant is still in the property, by law, you are required to give them 72 hours to retrieve their belongings after the eviction has been concluded. And after that 72-hour period, you have a right to keep, sell, or dispose of whatever they've left behind. If you get there and the tenant isn't there, those are the best ones, because then it's really easy breezy. You're just changing the locks and the sheriff is giving you the notice of vacant possession. And so you can finally start a new chapter.
Yeah, finally. At that point. So if the tenant is still there and you have to give them the 72 hours, then I guess you're probably not allowed to change the locks?
Yes, you have to change the locks because you're securing possession. You would just have to either have someone go there and open the door for them to be able to move their things out. You can schedule times like maybe, 9 to 4 or something like that.
Okay.
A lot of people, it has to be reasonable. If someone's working, you need to make arrangements because they have to be able to get their things out, and then you want this done. You don't want it to really drag on for the full 72 hours. If the tenant gets back in there while they're moving their things out and they refuse to leave, you have that piece of paper that you call the police and you show them the notice of vacant possession, and the police will assist you.
Okay. And how long does this whole process usually take from getting the order to sheriff showing up?
Yeah, it's not because of a delay from the small claims side of things, like with the sheriff's office, because everything's kind of still delayed from the Landlord Tenant Board delays. So once you get the order and then you file it with the sheriff, you're probably looking at somewhere around 3 weeks, sometimes less.
Okay.
They are obligated to give the tenant a certain amount of notice, so that eats up 10 days or 7 to 10 days of the first part of your waiting time. But usually you get a date within about 3 weeks.
Okay. So just to summarize here, so you get the order and then you pay the fee.
You have to fill out the documents and you take them to the small claims court in your jurisdiction.
Okay.
And then you pay the fee, and then the sheriff will contact you with a date and a time.
Okay. So then you're just waiting on the sheriff at that point.
Yep.
Okay. So pretty quick turnaround, actually.
Yeah, it's actually not bad.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Once you get the order.
Yeah, and it's so funny the way it's turned around, because before COVID, when things were moving so quickly through the Landlord Tenant Board, like we could sometimes get an order from filing an application to eviction within like 8 weeks, sometimes 12 weeks, right? And so it was actually the evictions that were taking longer to schedule because things were moving so much faster. And now it's reversed, where you're waiting a lot longer to get the order, but the sheriffs are kind of standing around waiting to do an eviction.
Why is the delays with, why did COVID cause delays?
Yeah, so what happened is that everything shut down. So there were no hearings for like 2 weeks, but they didn't close the portals or the ability for legal people or individual landlords to file applications. Mm-hmm. So during the time when that 2 weeks where they were trying to figure out how they were going to transition over to remote hearings, the backlog was like 40,000 applications. It was insane because there's so many that are filed weekly. And then they launched a new portal at the same time. And the portal had a lot of issues. So people could only file through the portal. And then they discovered that all those applications that were filed through the portal, like tens of thousands, there were errors. So they started then having to figure out how they were going to get people to refile and not recharge them. My office alone got something like between 80 and 100 that we had to refile. That's just my office.
Yeah.
And then the scheduling, just getting everybody on a platform where, they put moderators in place that maybe had some more experience dealing with the Zoom and the remote type of thing. So there was a lot of hiring things. And then, other adjudicators who were able to do that on their own without a moderator, they would face the challenges of just the sheer volume of people they were trying to push through. Sometimes there would be like 30 or 40 matters scheduled in a morning block, which is really only from 9 to 12. It's impossible. In the past, when you would go to the physical locations, they had separate rooms. So ones that where only one party showed up would go all into one room. And then the ones that were contested, where all parties showed up, they would be in a separate room. And then mediators were there to help people who really wanted to figure things out. So it was a really good setup that way. Because if this adjudicator in the uncontested room finished first, he could assist with the contested matters in the other room. But the remote just doesn't give that ability for them to do that.
So it was just this big transition over to virtual plus the 2-week delay that
plus the portal.
Broke everything.
Plus the portal.
Plus the portal.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, so before COVID, it was like, you said 4 to 8 weeks?
No, it would be like 6 to 8 weeks maybe. And then sometimes 12, depending on what location you were at. Because there are some areas that are busier with landlord-tenant issues. But yeah, it was a quick turnaround.
Okay. And now, roughly speaking?
I hate to answer this question, but we're looking at around 7 to 8 months for a hearing date.
Wow.
Yeah. And then after that, the adjudicators are working so hard to get the orders out in a timely manner because people have been waiting so long. But oftentimes we're looking at somewhere between, those ones that we get really fast within a week or 2 weeks is amazing. But for the most part, on average, you're looking at about 3 to 4 weeks to wait for the order.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it becomes really important for people to understand, landlords to understand that they need to address issues in a timely manner in order to get in line faster.
Yeah.
Right? So they have to be more on top of it. They have to be more aware of what's going on at the property and understand what they're able to do to address those items.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Kelly.
Yeah, no problems.